Okay, so ready for this. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a real head-scratcher of a historical mystery. We're talking about the disappearance of Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose.
A story full of twists and turns, for sure.
Seriously, it could give any fictional thriller a run for its money.
Absolutely.
Picture this, 1945, World War II is finally winding down. India's on the verge of independence.
A pivotal moment.
And right at this crucial point, poof, one of the most prominent figures in India just vanishes.
Gone just like that.
No goodbye, no note, no last-minute interviews, nothing. Just a giant question mark where he used to be.
And that question mark has lingered for decades.
You're telling me it's like this unsolved mystery continues to echo through India even today, sparking debates and fueling speculation left and right.
Because it's not just a historical footnote, is it?
Not at all. It's a live wire.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to unpack today. The different theories, what little evidence we do have, and the enduring mystery that just won't quit.
It's a fascinating case.
Now, to help us navigate this historical maze, we've got our expert. Let's just say they've got a knack for bringing context to even the most tangled timelines,
I do try my best.
which is exactly what we need here. So no time for beating around the bush. Let's get right to it. Did Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose actually die back in 45? Or did he, pull a Houdini and disappear on purpose?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And, in a way, that unresolved mystery is what makes this whole thing so captivating. Because, see, if there was a clear-cut ending, if we knew for sure, it would just be another historical event settled and done. But with Bose, there's this lingering what-ifs that hangs in the air.
Right.
It creates this vacuum, and that vacuum gets filled with hope, with speculation even, dare I say, with whispers of conspiracy.
A vacuum. That's such a perfect way to put it. It's like the very absence of an answer just invites new possibilities to rush in and take root.
Exactly.
And speaking of possibilities, let's dive into the first theory on the list. The infamous plane crash.
The most widely accepted theory, but not without its holes.
Oh, absolutely not. So it's August 1945. A plane, believed to be carrying Bose, goes down in Taiwan.
And not a gentle landing either, a full-on crash.
We're talking fiery wreckage, eyewitness accounts, the works. But, and there's always a but, right? Doubts, they just keep swirling around this crash. So paint us a picture. What was the scene like in those immediate days and weeks after the crash? What was being reported, being said?
Well, first you have to imagine a world without the 24/7 news cycle, without instant global communication. Information back then, it traveled at a snail's pace.
Snail's pace is putting it mildly.
It trickled in, often distorted by the fog of war. It was chaotic. Verifying anything in those circumstances was next to impossible.
I can't even imagine.
Eyewitness accounts, they mentioned thick smoke, a raging fire. Most believed that surviving that inferno would have been, well, basically a miracle. But, and it's a big but, without a body, without that irrefutable proof.
That seed of doubt, it gets planted, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It only takes a tiny crack to make people wonder, what if?
And with a mystery like this one, that missing body, that's not just a crack. That's practically a gaping hole in the whole narrative.
You said it.
It makes you wonder, what if the crash wasn't the open and shut case it seemed to be at the time? What if Bose, and let's not forget, this was a man known for his strategic thinking, what if he'd somehow planned the whole thing? Orchestrated his own vanishing act?
Now, that's a theory that's gained a lot of traction over the years.
And it leads us right into our second theory. Escape and refuge.
A popular one with those who believe Bose had too much fight left in him to die in 45.
It's a theory that really hinges on Bose's character, right? This is a man known for his political prowess, his ability to maneuver, to forge alliances, even when those alliances seemed improbable, even risky.
He was a master strategist, that's for sure.
Some speculate that he might have sought refuge in, of all places, the Soviet Union.
It wasn't as far-fetched as it might sound at first.
That to a lot of people that might sound crazy, but when you consider the global landscape at the time,
It was a time of shifting alliances.
the Soviets, they had their own reasons for wanting to see the British Empire dismantled.
They were no fans of colonialism, to say the least.
So all of a sudden, this idea of Bose finding a powerful ally in the Soviets, it doesn't seem so outlandish anymore.
Not at all. They had motive and potentially the means.
It adds a whole new layer to this story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
We're not just talking about a disappearance anymore. We're talking about potential secret alliances, hidden agendas.
Cloak and dagger stuff.
The world was on the brink of a new order. And who knows what role someone like Bose might have played in that new world, especially if he had the backing of a major power like the Soviet Union.
It's a real rabbit hole.
It is, isn't it? And with the Soviets in the mix, well, it's safe to say the plot just thickened considerably. But before we spiral too far down that particular rabbit hole, there's another theory we need to examine. And this one might be the most audacious, even paradoxical theory yet. The possibility of an alliance with Japan.
Now that's a theory that raises eyebrows.
Oh, you can say that again?
To understand this one, we really need to understand the historical context.
Because at first glance, it does seem counterintuitive.
By this point in World War II, Japan was positioning itself as, quote-unquote, the liberator of Asia.
Fighting against Western imperialism, their words, not mine.
Exactly. So the question becomes, did Bose, in this desperate bid for India's independence, see a strategic advantage in siding with Japan?
Despite the obvious moral quandaries that would come with such an alliance.
Despite the complexities, yes. It's a question that historians are still debating today.
And it really highlights the fact that history, well, it rarely gives us easy answers, does it? Sometimes it throws us these curveballs, these situations where the lines get blurry, and we're forced to confront the fact that the past, well, it was messy.
It certainly was.
So let's recap, shall we? We've got a plane crash shrouded in mystery, a daring escape into the heart of the Soviet Union, and now a potential alliance with an imperial power, each one more improbable than the last.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is. But, and this is where it gets even more interesting, what is the answers to this puzzle? What if they're not buried in some official government archive, not hidden in some secret war room?
Where else could they be?
What if they're tucked away in the whispers of a remote village, far from the halls of power and the official narratives?
Now that piques my interest. Tell me more.
Oh, you already know I will. But we'll have to save that for after the break. Stay with us.
That's right. We're leaving behind the official records and political maneuvering for a moment.
Time for a change of scenery.
We're heading to the foothills of the Himalayas, to a place called Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay, now we're talking. I love a good Himalayan mystery.
Imagine a place that seems almost untouched by the chaos of World War II.
Peaceful, remote.
It's here, in a remote village, that we come across a story.
Ooh, a story. I knew there had to be a good story somewhere in these mountains.
A story that's been passed down through generations.
The kind of story that gets told and retold around a crackling fire.
Yeah, exactly. And this story, well, it adds a whole new dimension to the mystery of Subhas Chandra Bose.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. Spill the tea.
So the villagers, they tell of an old man.
An old man. I bet he was full of wisdom.
This old man claimed to have encountered Bose.
No way. Years after the alleged plane crash.
Years after he was presumed dead. And here's the thing. He didn't see Bose. They talked.
Wait, hold on. They had full-on conversations. This wasn't just a fleeting glimpse in a crowded marketplace or something.
According to the story, their conversations were detailed, full of meaning. The old man, he described the look in Bose's eyes, the feeling of hope they shared.
Okay, now that's an image. You can practically hear the old man recounting every detail, can't you?
And it wasn't just talk. According to the old man, Bose, he made a promise.
A promise. What kind of promise? Don't leave me hanging here.
He promised that he would return one day, that he would return to India and lead the nation to true freedom.
Wow, a promise of return. You know, you can practically feel the weight of that promise, the hope it must have carried, especially for people who believed in Bose's vision.
Absolutely. It's a powerful narrative, but it also raises questions.
Right. Because as amazing as these stories are, these oral histories, how do we know what's true?
Yeah.
It's not like we can just pop over to the lab and get a historical fact check, can we?
You're hitting on a crucial point. Oral histories, they're potent, especially in regions where written documentation is scarce.
They're like living records of the past.
They preserve cultural memory, transmitting knowledge in a way that written records sometimes can't.
There's a certain magic to them.
There is, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge that they're also vulnerable to the passage of time.
Things get lost in translation, details get added, stories get embellished.
Exactly. So while we can't definitively say that the old man's story is hard historical fact, we also can't dismiss the power of that belief, the way it captured the imagination of a community.
It speaks to something deeper, doesn't it? This idea that Bose became more than just a political figure. He became a symbol.
A symbol of resilience, of hope.
And his disappearance, rather than ending that hope, it somehow amplified it.
Because how do you say goodbye to a symbol? How do you accept the definitive end of a story that feels unfinished?
You almost can't, can you?
No.
It's like this open loop constantly pulling you back in.
People were, and I think in many ways still are, looking for those missing pieces, hoping for some kind of closure, even if it's just a confirmation of what they already believe to be true.
It's amazing, isn't it, the way this one man's fate could have such a profound and lasting impact.
And it's not just in the grand narratives of escape and intrigue.
It's in those quiet whispers, those stories passed down through
And
generations.
it makes you think, doesn't it? What was it about Bose that inspired such devotion, such enduring fascination?
It makes you wonder about the man behind the mystery.
Exactly. And one crucial aspect of that, an aspect that often gets overshadowed by the more sensational theories, is his vision for India's future.
His vision. Tell me more about that. What kind of future did he imagine for India?
You know, it's funny, when we talk about disappearances, we often get so caught up in the how and the why,
The mechanics of it all.
exactly, that we forget about the who, the person who's gone missing. Their dreams, their hopes, their vision for the future, it's like their inner world disappears along with them.
It's easy to get lost in the external puzzle and forget about the internal world of the individual.
And in Bose's case, it seems like his vision for India, it was pretty ambitious, wasn't it? It wasn't just about breaking free from colonial rule.
It went much deeper than that. He was talking about a complete societal transformation.
A complete transformation. Now, that's a bold statement. What did that look like in his mind? Give me the highlights.
Well, you have to remember the context. This is a newly independent India grappling with poverty, illiteracy, social inequalities that ran deep.
Challenges that had been exacerbated by centuries of colonial rule. Exactly. And Bose, he recognized that true freedom, it meant tackling those issues head on. He envisioned an India built on social justice, economic self-reliance, a strong sense of national identity, things that were missing at the time.
So not just replacing one power structure with another.
No, he wanted a complete overhaul.
He was calling for a radical reimagining of what India could be.
Absolutely. He advocated for rapid industrialization, for embracing scientific advancement, for a modern education system that empowered every citizen, regardless of their background.
He sounds like a man ahead of his time.
He was. He also believed in things that were considered radical back then. Gender equality, the upliftment of marginalized communities.
Ideas that are still being fought for today.
It makes you wonder what India could have become if he'd had the chance to put his vision into action.
It's almost eerie, isn't it? The way these ideas, these core values that Bose was talking about back then, they still resonate so strongly today. It's like we're still striving for that same sense of unity, that same drive for progress.
And that's what makes Bose's legacy so fascinating. It's not just about the mystery, the unanswered questions.
It's about the ideas he left behind.
Those ideas, they continue to shape conversations about India's past, its present, and what it might become in the future.
It's a powerful reminder that history, well, it's not just a dry collection of dates and battles and treaties, is it?
Not at all.
It's about people,
Mm-hmm.
real people, with hopes and dreams and a burning desire to make the world a better place.
People like Bose.
Exactly. People like Bose. And sometimes those hopes and dreams, that vision for a brighter future, it can be even more enduring, even more impactful than the circumstances of their death, or in this case, their disappearance.
Their legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of those they inspired.
So as we come to the end of our deep dive into the enigma of Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose, we're left not with a neat and tidy conclusion tied up in a bow, but with a sense of wonder.
Wonder.
Yeah, a sense of wonder at the complexities of history, the enduring power of belief, and the way a single life
One person, one story.
can leave an indelible mark on the world, even when shrouded in mystery.
It's a story that stays with you.
It really does. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most fitting tribute to a man like Bose, a man who challenged conventions, who embraced the unknown, and who above all else dared to dream of a different future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never ever lose that sense of wonder.